The Intel Core series. For most people, this is the processor they've grown up with. Intel introduced the Core brand in 2006, and it became the standard inside laptops and desktop computers for well over a decade. The lineup is divided into tiers: i3, i5, i7, and i9, where higher numbers generally mean more power. Core processors are known for strong single-core performance, which matters a lot in everyday tasks like browsing, office work, and gaming. Intel has refined this architecture through many generations, and while the company has faced serious competition in recent years, the Core series remains one of the most widely installed processor families on the planet. AMD Ryzen. When AMD released its Ryzen lineup in 2017, it genuinely changed the conversation around desktop processors. Before Ryzen, Intel had held a comfortable lead for years. Ryzen matched and in some cases beat that performance at a lower price, which pushed the entire industry forward. Ryzen chips tend to offer more cores for the money, making them attractive for video editing, streaming, and multitasking workloads. The naming follows a similar tier structure: Ryzen 3, 5, 7, and 9, and the platform has matured significantly over multiple generations. AMD's comeback with Ryzen is one of the more notable shifts in consumer hardware history. The Apple M series. Apple had used Intel chips in its Mac computers for many years, but in 2020 the company made a dramatic shift by designing its own processors. The M1 was the first, and its performance and efficiency surprised almost everyone in the industry. Unlike most desktop or laptop processors, Apple's M-series chips integrate the CPU, GPU, and memory onto a single piece of silicon. This design reduces the distance data has to travel, which improves speed and dramatically lowers power consumption. M-series Macs can run for hours longer than comparable machines, while still outperforming them in many benchmarks. It was a clear signal that chip design and software working together closely can produce results that off-the-shelf solutions often can't match.
The ARM processor. ARM doesn't make chips the way Intel or AMD does. Instead, the British company designs processor architectures and licenses them to other manufacturers. Qualcomm, Apple, Samsung, and dozens of other companies all build chips based on ARM's designs. The architecture was built from the ground up with efficiency in mind, which is why it powers virtually every smartphone and tablet in the world. ARM chips use less power and generate less heat than traditional x86 processors, making them ideal for mobile devices that run on batteries. The trade-off historically was performance at the high end, but that gap has narrowed considerably, and ARM-based chips are now appearing in laptops and even servers. The Qualcomm Snapdragon. Snapdragon is the most recognizable ARM-based chip family in the consumer world. Found in Android smartphones from Samsung, Sony, OnePlus, and many others, Snapdragon processors handle everything from app performance to camera processing to cellular connectivity. Qualcomm designs the chip as a complete system, often called a system on a chip, that includes not just the processor cores, but also a graphics unit, a modem, and dedicated hardware for tasks like AI processing. Different Snapdragon tiers exist for different price points, from budget phones to flagship devices. When a new Android phone launches with top-of-the-line performance claims, it's usually running the latest Snapdragon chip. The Intel Xeon. Most people will never own a Xeon processor, but they interact with its work constantly. Xeon is Intel's line of processors built for servers, workstations, and data centers, the machines that run websites, process financial transactions, store cloud data, and handle large-scale computation. These chips prioritize reliability, memory capacity, and the ability to run without interruption for months or years at a time. A single Xeon chip can support far more RAM than a standard desktop processor, and many server configurations use multiple Xeon chips working together simultaneously. Consumer features like high single-core speed matter less here. What matters is consistency, error correction, and the ability to scale.
The AMD EPYC. EPYC is AMD's answer to the Xeon, and it has made significant inroads in the server and data center market. Built on the same core architecture as Ryzen, but expanded and optimized for enterprise environments, EPYC chips offer a very high core count at competitive prices. Major cloud providers, including Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, have adopted EPYC processors in their data centers, which is a meaningful endorsement in an industry where purchasing decisions are made very carefully. AMD's success with EPYC mirrors its Ryzen story, entering a market Intel-dominated and earning credibility through performance and value. The Intel Celeron and Pentium. These are the processors most people forget about, but they serve a specific purpose. Celeron and Pentium chips sit at the lower end of Intel's lineup, offering basic processing power at a very low cost. They're found in budget laptops, Chromebooks, basic office machines, and entry-level computers that don't need to do anything demanding. Performance is limited, and they're not suitable for gaming or professional creative work. For someone who primarily browses the web, uses a word processor, or watches videos, though, they're functional and affordable. They represent the minimum viable product end of the processor market. The MediaTek Dimensity. MediaTek has long been a major chip manufacturer, but for years its processors were associated mainly with budget Android phones. The Dimensity series changed that perception. Released starting in 2019, Dimensity chips began appearing in mid-range and eventually flagship smartphones, offering performance that competed seriously with Qualcomm's Snapdragon lineup. MediaTek is a Taiwanese company, and it designs ARM-based system-on-a-chip solutions that include integrated 5G modems, AI hardware, and graphics. In markets across Asia, MediaTek-powered phones are extremely common, and the company has quietly grown into one of the world's largest chip designers by volume shipped.
The IBM POWER processor. IBM's Power architecture has existed since the early 1990s and has always occupied a very different space from consumer processors. These chips are built for enterprise servers, high-performance computing, and environments where reliability is non-negotiable. Banks, airlines, and large institutions often run critical systems on Power-based machines because of their stability and performance under sustained workloads. IBM also uses Power architecture in some of the world's most powerful supercomputers. The architecture is not widely known outside of enterprise and scientific computing circles, but in those fields it carries a strong and long-standing reputation. The RISC-V processor. RISC-V is different from every other processor on this list in one fundamental way. Its core architecture is open source. Anyone can use, study, modify, and build upon the RISC-V instruction set without paying licensing fees. This makes it attractive to researchers, startups, and countries that want to develop domestic chip industries without depending on American or British companies. RISC-V processors are still relatively limited in consumer use, but they are growing in embedded systems, industrial hardware, and academic environments. Whether it becomes a mainstream alternative to ARM or x86 remains to be seen, but its open nature gives it a unique position in the long-term trajectory of processor design.